Hey there, YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger. This EQ, I bought the board and then drilled holes in this box and put it in here. We slapped a little board on here as an insulate, and then these battery packs come out to, these are 18650 batteries. We recycle these. 6 of them comes out to like 25.5 volts, and it's a 24 volt circuit. So I was nervous about it, and then I noticed that the LED went from bright to dim. It was still passing audio. It sounded fine. So we opened it up and we found that there's a blown capacitor. And it had just lifted the top of the capacitor off, so that was bouncing around in here. So I found it and I was able to read the value. It was a 16 volt capacitor. Now, this is rated at 24 volts. So to take a 24 volt circuit and put a 16 volt capacitor in means it's going to fail. Eventually, that capacitor is going to give up the ghost. They also put the fake op amp chips. There's 2 little op amps, operational amplifier IC chip. They're 8 pins. And these are what actually is the amp in here. The thing that's doing the boosting of the signal. It's just these chips. So if it's a better op amp, if like there's something called a data sheet, and this is a PDF or a piece of paper, you can look them up online. If you have the part number, you type the part number and then you type the word data sheet. And then you can pull that up and it will tell you all the specifications. And depending on like your intellect for this stuff, you can figure a lot of stuff out about the performance. So some of us read data sheets, and one of the things China's been doing, they print these fake op amp chips and put them in all their audio stuff. So the bog standard, in my opinion, everything in this video is just that. And I'm not a Pro Tech or expert. I just learned a little bit about this stuff from doing it for a while. And that's not that I'm not like, oh, I'm a pedal geek. I'm a guru. I'm like Zeke Wildhammer. You know, I'm trying to pick out am I going to dress up like a monk? Am I going to get a rice paddy hat or a coal miner for this year's NAMM convention? No, none of that, okay? I built stuff because I hurt my back and I can't afford to buy the actual thing, so I build it. And I kind of don't do that anymore. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know, you got to watch out when you're buying stuff from getting it from the cheaper, like if you're getting it China Direct, AliExpress, or eBay, you can really save a lot of money. You can buy parts in bulk, but sit down and test every one of them before you even put them away in your stock. Do that. Trust me. So, how do you know they're fake op amp ICs? Well, the bog standard TLO72 op amp pulls a certain amount of current. And if it's a hi-fi, if it's like an extra fancy chip that delivers higher specifications, better frequency response curve, lower total harmonic distortion, more output, these types of things. You know, it's not just like, oh, that's a good chip. There's numbers behind all this stuff. So you can look at the fake NE5532, and you can attach your multimeter to it, to a current draw test, and you realize, oh, hey, well, what's going on? This is just sipping the power, the current. It's not volts. It's it's actually amperage. It's I forget what they call the test. MA milliamp. So when we do that test and you see this circuit with the chip, the Chinese op amp, it's not taking the amount of power that's specified if you look up this chip on the data sheet, it says it's supposed to take, like, let's say 30 milliamp, and it's taking 3. And you know that the bog standard chip is supposed to take 5. The reason you bought this was because you thought, well, I don't want the bog standard. I want something a little better, and I'm willing to pay for it. So let me get that. And then you get it and you put it in, and it's like not even taking the amount of power that the bog standard chip would. That was my first clue. Then I find out that they're all fake. That this is a thing with China. Any 5532 is their favorite fake audio op amp IC, and they're in everything that you buy. So the solution to this is that you go out and purchase them in bulk. You can get them I get mine from Teda, which is a Taiwanese supplier. You can get them from wherever you want. You can go to Steve over at Big Mouse, Large Bear. You know what? I think he sold it. Micro Dash, Springy Key, Ratzer, Mauser, DigiKey, and get a pack of 50 any 5532s. And then when you get stuff in from China, whether it's an EQ board or a headphone amp board, you can just pull those 5532s out. And one thing you can do, if you look at the data sheet, on pins 2 and 3 there's a diode bridge, which is 2 diodes facing the opposite way, so it looks like a bridge. So you can just set your multimeter to the diode test and then put your meter, touch the probes between legs 2 and 3. And if the meter just sits there and looks back at you and says OL, OL doesn't stand for oh well, it's all good. It means open line. That means it means you got a fake op amp IC from China. Because if you look at the data sheet on the NE5532, it clearly shows there's a diode bridge between legs 2 and 3, and then when you there isn't, because the fakes don't have the diode. Then you test the current draw, and it's drawing 3 milliamp when it should be drawing 30. Well, then you know, Houston, we got a problem. Now, like I said, this thing, it draws 24 volts of current, and this battery pack was like, it's 6 of them, and it adds up to 25 and a half. So I was concerned about blowing a capacitor in here, but I know, well, there is no 25 volt capacitor. There are 24 volt capacitors, or there are 36, or there's 50s. If you're building a circuit and you're going to rate it 24, you put the 50 volt capacitors in there. If it's a 9 volt, you could use a 16, but really 24, any respectable guy. You don't want to be putting like the next up number capacitor. That's just not a good business practice thing to do, because you know that the wall wart, the power supplies that come for this thing, if you test them, they're tested with no load, and they meter out way higher. They're like, the newer power supplies are different because stuff is digital. But if you look at the older power supplies from like the early 90s and the 80s, they're all like way over spec what they say on the back of them. You know, it'll say 9 volts, but it can be putting out 16. That's a real regular everyday occurrence you're going to run across from back then. So this thing, the LED went dim one day, and I opened it up and found the capacitor on the back of the board, which is where the power filtering is, right after the power input. There's some caps, so when you just plug, like if you were to yank the power plug on here, you'd see the LED would stay on for a while. That's because the first thing on the off of the jack is these 2 capacitors that fill up and then slowly drain. And they use two so they don't have to use one real big one, because the larger ones are more money than buying two or half value. The only thing is, on mine, they didn't put the right value on both of them. They split it up between two, and one of them was a 16 volt capacitor. The other one was a 50. So it's like China's willingly selling you this board. They know that a few months down the line, after the warranty, the capacitor is going to blow on it. Me Chinese, me play joke. So I'm not saying they were aware of this. Why you would put a 16 volt capacitor in a device that's rated for 24 volts? I don't know why I would ever do that. The only reason I would do that is if I was sabotaging. You say sabotage. I say sabotage. Have you ever heard that clip? So we use these 18650s here, and when it comes time for us to do the remote, there comes this testing phase where I'm testing a ridiculous amount. I have two of these that I built. I installed a little cooling fan on both of them. And okay, I'll show you, because we're talking about phonies and fakes, people that don't always tell the honest to goodness truth when they should. I don't like people that, especially people that are like my age or over 40. Let's just be honest. One of the things that I did when I got married was make myself a set of personal vows. And I'm really glad that I did that, because I've had people come trying to tempt me into wickedness, and I can just tell them, look, I had a little sit down with myself before I got married, and I came up with a list of Petey's commandments that I'm never going to break. And therefore, that's one of those things, and I just can't do it. I can't do it. So when it comes time for a remote, we have these batteries. There's a lot of them. There's a lot. And I'm charging 20 at a time, and then I have to test them. So you have this meter, and you have these probes, and you have all these batteries, and it's like, it gets a little bit fiddly. So this is something I made out of some scrap wood, and these rails here are, if you disassemble a wall wart, a battery transformer, one of those things you plug into the wall with the cord on it where you go to plug it in, that thing that you hate. This is what's inside of the windings. They have these little pieces of steel where it's the copper insulated wire is wrapped around these things that they form like big bars of metal. So if you disassemble one, you can get a bunch of these little strips of metal out of it. And that's what these two pieces are. I bent them with a needle nose pliers, and then drilled pilot holes and ran some screws through. And then I used, these wires are from a computer power supply, and they're pretty thick gauge wire. Like, I like using this wire for heavy duty. So and then there's just a pair of and this, honestly, this is way too long. I need to chop this down and make it shorter. So in the meantime, I suppose I could tie it in a little knot. So I hope you enjoyed the video on fakes today. We're about to do a practice here because the equinox is coming up, and we're going to do a really special remote. So we're busy. It's been just an unbelievably mind-numbing amount of work preparing for this latest remote as things have gotten kind of intense and large. There's 3 effectors that we have to program. Anytime I change anything in the set list, it's like it's just a mind-numbing amount of work to do it. But I'm so lucky to be able to do this, and I'm not complaining. Okay, just maybe that would be easier to understand why, if someone were to use AI and then produce this piece of music and claim that they had made it, why that would be offensive to me. Because I personally, in my life, I've spent a real lot of time working to make the music that we do what it is. Okay? I've worked really hard at that. So when I see somebody else use AI and then people are praising them in public, and then I find out the person comes clean and tells me, "Oh, that wasn't me. It was AI." And it's like, well, you didn't say that when you were live on the air. You know? So to me, that is a big deal. That's a really, really unfortunate. I would also say it's telling about one's character. So this one here, it's got a hot and it's got a ground, and they're just bent. So you got like a box of them, you set it on DC, and then you can just plop this in here and plop it out. Plop it in here, 4, 2, 3, and out. 4, 1, 3, and out. 419 and out. I didn't have that one in properly. So yeah, you have to. It is jiggly. As you see, the battery's not. If you put it all the way in. Oh, if you put it all the way in, you actually get a good reading. So if you find yourself testing a lot of batteries and they're this shape, whether that's AAA, AA, C, or D batteries, you can make something like this and you may find it really useful. Personally, I'm really excited about the remote that's coming up. We've got new gear, and in the past season, when it was time for me to edit this music that we make, I was doing post-processing effects, and I really got carried away with that, and it's unbelievably cool what you can do. I do plan to make some videos when I do this next. My plan would be to show the process and explain exactly what I've been doing. There's a guy I'm friends with who is a professional musician. He's a bass player from a band called Psychodots and the Bears, Adrian Ballou. This guy, his name is Bob. He's a bass player. Really, it's unbelievably talented guy. like really. Bob is he's like a humanitarian. I look up to him for the lyrics he's written, because he has these anthems for peace, and I would almost say that Bob writes like protest songs really well. Like that's when he's at his finest. He's able to write these kind of like protest songs, you know. But I sent him a video. I sent him a link from one of our remotes, and because he's been really generous with me as far as I was able to hang out with him one night at his house, and I had the opportunity to go through his record collection, and he had all of the Syd Barrett solo records, and he had all of the Harry Nilsson, and at that day, this was years ago, this was in like 94 or something, he turned me on to They Might Be Giants, and Apollo 18 was the album he was playing for me, and of course I went and got it, and that album brought me a real lot of joy. It's They Might Be Giants are kind of an acquired taste, I would say. It's certainly not for everyone, but it's quirky, maybe, you know. Really clever as well. Like I would also say groundbreaking or unique. Like they came up with some stuff that's unbelievable, but they also had like a klezmer, or like a more traditional feel to the music. So Bob was the only person that said something to me about my use of post-processing effects in my video. He noticed right away, and he said, "Nice effects with the post-processing." And I was like, I mean, I was so happy that he noticed. You know, I'm not trying to, and it always hangs over me when I'm adding stuff in post. I'm like, this is dishonest. This is a live remote video, and I'm putting a delay on here that makes it sound so much cooler. This is dishonest. So I will now be playing through 2 stereo reverb units and 5 separate echo units when we play live at the remote. That's what I got going on. That's what I've been working on for the past couple of weeks, and I've got it. It sounds so unbelievably cool. You would think, okay, 5 echo units, that's way too much. Well, it's not technically units. They're models. They're software models of physical units. You know, it's only 2 devices that are doing all this processing. I'm using firmware version 5 of the MG30, which allows you to double up on the delay, and the Moore Ocean machine. So if I use the duo time, which is 2 delay units, and I use it on every patch, and then a panning delay, which I use it on every patch, and then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. The Moore Ocean machine is the second one that I'm using. So super excited about the Equinox coming up and this remote that we're going to be doing, I'm actually about to play right now. But I wanted to check in with you guys and talk a little bit about fake Chinese stuff again. Talk about that EQ that failed. It's another thing that, I've never run into that before. I've never run into buying something where they knowingly and wittingly have the wrong value capacitor installed. Kind of a huge bummer, really. It's not like, oh, look at how smart I am, but I caught them doing this. That's not. I don't try to elevate or pull the wool over anyone's eyes about my character, my abilities. I'm really open about that, about how I feel, or just like what I know to be reality. I'm not a talented person. If I was, I probably wouldn't be doing this. I do it because I enjoy the challenge. That's why you don't see me singing. It's because I don't have a pleasant voice. And to think I could have avoided all of this and just used AI. What a fool I am. This is the side of the remote you guys don't see, is the charging of the batteries. And when I reapply the power, the light will go from green to red, and it'll get another charging cycle in. These cheap battery chargers, I do not trust these to run overnight by themselves. And as I mentioned, I built in a little cooling fan on it because they get so unbelievably hot. And like I said, these batteries have been, they've all been run through the machine. I find this process of charging them and then charging them again and then charging them again. I usually charge them 3 times before the remote. And this charger here, I have another, like a 4-banger, a little 4, and it charges them way higher. And I kind of wish this was like that, but I don't know, and I would imagine maybe for the battery it's not as good. So if anybody knows more about the battery technology, that would be great. You could fill me in about that. I am going to put some light on here. This is one of the things you'll be able to see, and to me, the more importantly is it that when we're doing a remote, everything that's there is symmetrical and not messy, because when a cop does show up, because we're being loud, if everything is really neat, if we've got all multiple colors of pink and purple stuff out everywhere, and there's all kinds of venomous insects attracted to that, I like to try to keep the colors muted, but we don't do our let our Metallica flag fly, you know, and also have everything really neat, because I know how people's minds work, and if the cop does show up, if somebody calls on us and they come and it looks like the freak flag, you know, like it's all messy and the chances that they're gonna give us a break with each layer of messiness, it just goes down, you know. And honestly, since we've found the places we've been going lately, we really haven't run across a problem with Johnny Law Dog. It's been really pleasant. So you saw that it was a few minutes of rapidly changing batteries here, and I actually worked up a sweat. Now I've got 20 of them in there that really need a decent charging. Now I just moved it, and one of them went from red to green. Any movement on a sensitive cell will trigger it, but that one actually looks like it was actually just full. So how many am I going to have to go through? Oh, I got lucky, just one. So at this point, I filled the tray. Remember, I said 25.5 volts. Shall we see what it actually meters out at? Would that be fun? See how big of a fake and a phony that PD actually is. So now keep in mind, it's different every time. These batteries are, you know, they're give and take. They're usually like 4.10, 4.15, 4.20. When I see 4.20, I'm a happy boy. And I've even seen 4.26, but I don't think you see 4.30 too much. Maybe you do when they're new. You know, I tend to get them used. But this thing, we're rocking it out at 25 volts. It's rated at 24. And with that 24, even the LED is not very bright. But that's what it's supposed to look like. That's our mains EQ, or our room EQ that we use, and it lives in this little case. It's so much fun to do a remote. I can't wait. So I've got some music to make here, and we're doing some charging. I've got there's just one power pack that's charging up on a USB, and then I've got two 12-volt charges going on here. Whew. Holy cow. Hotty. So this one is Why was that so hot?
The plug or the battery?
The charger got hot. It's a 0.4 amp. It's 15 volts though. So yeah, this is, I don't think I should be using this for this. 15 volts is too high. I'm going to put a note on this. So for charging 9 volts, I would think 11 or 12.
Charger.
Yeah. This, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking these were 9 when I chopped this one for out here. Now I have a 12, it's 300 milliamp, 12 volt 300 milliamp here. And this power pack is a 9 volt 4300 lithium ion, this one here. And what's really kind of weird about this, 9 volt 1 amp is what it's rated at. So giving it, I'm going to have to find a 9 volt 1 amp for this. Giving it 300 is not right. Over here I've got 12 volt 1.25 amp. So this is the one I should be using. So I'm just gonna actually, you know what, the full light is lit on both of these, so I'm gonna put these away, and I'll just remember that this is the one you want to use. Like when we come back from the remote, I'm going to have to go through this whole process again. And we have 3 winners over here. Now, a lot of times you can just shut it off and turn it back on. But when the green light comes on that second time right away, then I would say they're done. So you'll have to excuse me, because this is at, like, I've already charged these twice. So this is the 3rd charge. So it's like you put one in and you may have to change batteries out. You may have to change 15 batteries out before you find one that's actually going to need the charge. That's just the way that I do it. It's not a very good system. But hey, at least I get some exercise. Okay, you guys, thank you for joining me on this one. I'm going to turn the air conditioner on.